Good afternoon and welcome to our weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Mark Elridge. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining us today is Mr. Sean O'Donnell, Deputy Chief of Public Health Services from the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as Dr. Earl Sauter, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. Our very special guest today is Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service new Chief, Mr. Corey Method. Good afternoon, Chief, and I toss it to you, Mr. County Executive. Good afternoon to you as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So there's been a lot of discussion about toning down political rhetoric following the assassination attempt on former President Trump. I think everybody has to make it clear that any form of political violence is unacceptable, regardless of who it's directed at or the issue at hand. I, in my entire life, have never witnessed this level of violent rhetoric. It is stunning how far out of bounds things have gotten. Hopefully, people will figure out how to rein this back in, because this is no way to, it's no way for a country to succeed if we're going to be torn apart by rhetoric that just exhorts people to commit violence. And violence just begets more violence. I don't think anybody should be confused about that. At the end of the day, we need to ensure that all our political discussions, no matter what level of government or what venue we're in, have to be based on facts, not lies, and with complete transparency. And as we continue to talk about toning down rhetoric, I hope we can ratchet up insisting that those arguments are accurate and based on data. We can do better. We've not exactly been a model for how to carry on political discussion, and I think we've got to do a better job of making sure people are informed rather than inflamed. Would be much more productive in the long run. In other issues of heat, we're in our continuing heat emergency. And the feels like heat index has continued to top 100 degrees this week. We also have had to deal with excessive heat, severe thunderstorms, and flash flood warnings. And our farmers are experiencing a lack of rain that is impacting crops that are grown here in Montgomery County. Corn is, for example, at a critical stage of its growth. And if it doesn't see some reasonable rain, we're not going to be seeing the kind of corn we want to see on our plates later this fall. You've heard us talk a lot about this over the past several weeks. We want everyone to continue to remind residents to take precautions, look after neighborhoods, family, and friends, and especially older adults and those with medical conditions. Stay on top of the threats by signing up for our text alerts through Alert Montgomery. I'd be remiss not to mention again, or I'd be remiss not to mention again, that this extreme weather continues as a consequence of our inaction on climate change. What we're seeing now is not the worst of it. So if anybody thinks this is the peak and things will just go down back to normal from here, we apparently have not seen anything yet. If you follow the news or any of the reports by people who monitor the scientific impacts, you can see that the peak is not here, it's a ways off. And this, where we're at now, is not even going to be a plateau. Instead, the most likely scenarios foresee more temperature rise, stronger storms, more rapidly rising sea levels that will exceed the previous projections. And what really is notable is that the projections of sea level rise used to be discussed in terms of inches, and now they're talking about it in terms of feet. And feet of sea level rise are going to have serious impacts, particularly for parts of the United States, but for many island nations, this will make the difference between whether islands survive or they don't survive. While years of deliberately deceptive messaging that came from the fossil fuel industry served to confuse the public about facts, they often suggested that climate change talk was just a hoax. And what we're seeing now is that the facts are every day in our lives. And the facts do not pretend any reversal of these trends anytime soon. We do need to reverse course on the processes that drive climate change. You know, we've talked about it a lot in Montgomery County. We are trying to do everything we can within our means, but we're stretching our means as best we can in order to put in place things that will mitigate against climate change. We also understand that we have a role to play in helping businesses and individuals make these changes. Many people don't have the resources to do this by themselves. The federal government does acknowledge that. So, we really are in a situation where we can't do this alone. We really require an all-in approach on this. And I'm hoping as you bear witness to what's happening, that all of us think about what we could do that would make a difference. Because obviously one person doing something is not going to make a difference. But if we all did something, because we all realized we need to do something, we could begin to turn this. I also want to say a big thank you to all our county employees who have not had the professional luxury to work in an air-conditioned environment. And I'm glad the fire chief is here because you had firsthand experience of non-air conditioned firefighting, I guess. Thousands of our employees, including our first responders, are dealing with this weather every day as they continue to serve our residents and communities. And department leaders and supervisors are making sure that they're taking care of the health and welfare of the employees who have to work in this heat. From fighting fires to taking care of those who are unhoused to responding to road maintenance issues, our employees, as well as contractors and community partners, continue to get the job here done in Montgomery County. I just want to thank everybody for sticking at this through pretty brutal conditions. We started this week by welcoming Chief Corey Smedley to the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service. He's the Fire and Rescue Service's first Black chief. I've lived in this county most of my life and have clear memories of the not just systemic racism, but the pure blatant racism that existed here. We've changed a lot over the last 5 decades to become one of the most diverse jurisdictions in the country, if not the world. While Chief Smedley is now a trailblazing figure in our county and our fire service, let me be the first to remind us that it shouldn't have taken this long for this moment to happen. We shouldn't be in the first part of the 21st century and talking about firsts for any racial group to attain a position. It's long overdue, and I'm glad that Chief Smedley's here. I don't know Corey. I didn't know Corey before this process to fill the vacancy, but from our first meeting and throughout the confirmation process, he's communicated with me and our council and our leadership in both our career and volunteer fire departments, who he is as a person. He's a leader with a vision for MCFRS and the fire and EMS profession in general moving forward. And his vision aligns with where we know we have to go in Montgomery County. Chief Smedley talks about faith, family, and lessons from a lifetime in fire and rescue profession as key contributors in forming his leadership perspective. He sees how our society is changing with more of an emphasis on community health and rescue operations rather than actually putting out fires. Chief Smedley has shown a willingness to be responsive to change. So I'd like to welcome him here to this media briefing and give him a few minutes to talk about anything he wants to talk about.
Thank you, County Executive. Thank you for having me on this platform. I also want to thank you for having the confidence in my leadership capabilities and fire service experience to nominate me to lead the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, and to our county council for confirming me. I can tell you it was a very engaging process, and it also tested me and to ensure that I refine and continuously improve myself so that I can be prepared today and throughout my tenure to lead this great department. So today is day 3 for me. And I can tell you, you're right, County Executive, from the standpoint of dealing with a weather-related event on Monday in the Darnestown area. I was on the incident of a house fire to yesterday from a man-made emergency with someone unfortunately having an accident that hit one of our libraries, the Davis Library in the Bethesda area. So the great news is your Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Department was ready for whatever the call was, and they continue to do that on a regular basis. And my vision and priority is to continue that, not only what we're seeing today, but into the evolution of wherever the fire service goes. Yes, we started out with fighting fire, but as we all know, COVID took us in a different direction. People are living longer. They're staying in place, and we have to find creative ways to help them do that. And sometimes, unfortunately, the only thing they have is calling the fire department, and sometimes that's not the right or the best thing for them. So we're working with all our stakeholders to ensure that we are adjusting ourselves to ensure that we're we're taking care of what is needed in the community, which sometimes is a little different than what our traditions have taught us. We need to keep the things that are worth keeping, and we need to adjust the things that we need to improve to better serve our community. And I'm looking forward to working with our great team inside of the organization, as well as our stakeholders throughout the community, to figure out creative ways to do that. And I'm looking forward and eager to do that.
I'm looking forward to your work. And
thank you. Thank you, Chief. Members of the media, we're going to open it up right now for questions for the Chief. If you have any questions for the Chief at this time, raise your hand right here, and we'll call on you. Other topics afterwards. There is Kevin Dupree. I believe, Kevin, you are with DC News Now. Good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for having us. So Chief Smedley, thank you for your time. So you were officially sworn in as the county's fire chief yesterday. So I guess just to begin, tell me how you're feeling.
Well, it was actually Monday, and my time is getting away from me as well. I was officially sworn in on Monday, and today marks day 3. But I can tell you, prior to officially becoming the fire chief in Montgomery County, I spent a lot of time learning about Montgomery County while I was trying to arrive. So although it's day 3 officially, I've been here probably 2.5 months now, just meeting people, listening, taking advantage of the opportunity of the access that's been provided to me even before I became the chief. So I feel great. I've been well received. Everything that I need coming into a new organization is coming to me with ease, and I'm just really appreciative and excited to be a part of this team.
And so just to follow up on that, what was it about Montgomery County and this job in particular that kind of, attracted you to want to, become the next chief for Montgomery County?
Really 3 things. First and foremost, my family situation aligned with me being able to take on this new opportunity. But the other 2 things was really key, and I was on the hook when I heard about it. And I heard about it from County Executive Elrich. And that were 2 things where we have the will and the resources. And I can tell you that doesn't always exist that way everywhere else. So that was really attractive for me because sometimes people have the resources but not the will. And sometimes people have the will and not the resources. But when you bring those combinations together, you can make positive change for everyone.
Yes, sir. And then the last question I have for you is, typically when leaders assume prominent positions like this one, they always talk about their plan for the first 100 days. And so can you talk to me a little bit about your focus as you get ready to, I guess you got 97 days left now.
Yeah. So I do have a 100-day plan. And most of that plan really starts with learning about the policies, the procedures, the processes of the organization. More importantly, learning the people in the organization. One thing that I noticed, this is not my first time coming into a new organization. I know one of the attributes that I bring is a set of fresh eyes. But what I don't bring is the ability to understand the nuances of the culture, some of the informal procedures that occur that help us do our due diligence. I need great ambassadors within the organization. So for me, part of my first 100 days is building that cadre of ambassadors, not only inside the organization, but across the community so that I can make sure that we're building teams to help us solve problems.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Suzanne Pollack, Montgomery Community Media, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you. I was just wondering how the firefighters are dealing with these 100-degree temperatures and all the uniforms and equipment that they need to carry during a fire. Is there anything special being done the last week or 2?
So we do a lot of things, not only when it is high heat index like we're dealing with now, but when it's not. So we've learned in the fire service to take care of our own. And we do that by different ways of how we deploy our resources, how we, when we're on the scene and after a certain amount of time, we take you out of an operational standpoint and take you to what we call rehab, so that we are taking care of you from making sure you're hydrated well, your system is working properly, whether it's your respiratory system, how you're oxygenating, how your heart rate is going. There are different things that we do inherently that's built into our system on a regular basis. So it doesn't matter if we're dealing with a difficult weather event or not. We make sure that we take care of our workforce to ensure that they're taken care of so they can take care of the community.
Has this been one of the worst week or two you've seen in terms of heat, or is this just a normal summer, a little hotter?
I wouldn't say this is the worst. I would say this is a little abnormal. But again, we've had lessons learned. We have plans that are already in place for weather-related events, not only to protect the community, but also to protect the first responders. So we have continuously evolved in that space. And when we get different things that we're not normally dealing with, we also provide what we call after-action reports to figure out what we did well and where we need to improve in those spaces. And that's a routine thing for the fire service and public safety in general.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Susan. Judy Hurst, the Greater Olney News. Good afternoon, Judy.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here and welcome you, Chief Smedley. I'm just wondering what kind of experience you have working with such a substantial hybrid of paid and volunteer firefighters, because I've been working in the news business here for 35 years, and it's sort of waxed and waned of how what kind of relationship they have, and but they're both there. And what kind of experience do you have working with that kind of system?
Most of my career, so I started in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is a similar system where they have both paid firefighters and volunteer firefighters and paramedics. So my actual first assignment out of rookie school was at Hyattsville, which is a volunteer company that has paid firefighters there. So my first introduction as I came in as a brand new firefighter EMT was embedded into a volunteer combination career volunteer system. And absolutely, as I elevated throughout my career, I had the opportunity to not only work alongside them, but also help lead some of the initiatives, whether that's building the infrastructure, whether that's our fleet, whether that's finding ways to ensure we have the appropriate training and equipment. So I've had extensive experience. I transitioned to Alexandria, where the system is a little different with combination. They do have a volunteer contingent, but it is not as robust as it is in Prince George's and Montgomery County. But it was kind of stale. What I mean is that they weren't being utilized as much as they thought they had value. So I helped to reinvigorate that with the team to ensure that we're taking advantage of talent that is needed out there. So most of my career has been dealing on the side with volunteer and career. And I can tell you now, there's for example, I know Marriott, I don't know if it's still, the headquarters is still here, but I know it used to be, and one of the head engineers was in school at University of Maryland at the time I was a rookie at Hyattsville, and we're still friends today. So in my career from prevention, anytime I was dealing with multifamily dwellings situations, I would call my friend DH, who was a volunteer and an engineer for fire protection, to help me understand where the industry is going. So those relationships not only help me in my career and I understand it, but they're long-lasting career friendships that help us in each other in our careers moving into the future as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Kelly Lean, ABC 7, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please unmute it. There you go.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was trying to come on to, I was wondering what your thoughts are on the legislation that has just been passed by the council that strengthens tenant protections and requires landlords to notify tenants of fire safety insurance and building maintenance issues. And of course, this is coming after that deadly fire at the Arrive apartment complex in Silver Spring. I also wanted to know, so your response first, and then I wanted to know maybe what steps do you as chief plan to take to improve safety and firefighter response, particularly to high-rise fires?
So thank you. So, I was briefed yesterday by one of the division chiefs who was working with the stakeholders in our housing and code to make sure that we had the data to support the direction that the legislation went in. So that was something that we provided assistance with. I think that is some good legislation that helps give additional teeth to some enforcement so that we can prevent those type of incidents from happening. So that's first. What I will do is just really a framework of how I approach things in general, is to really make sure I know who all the stakeholders that have responsibilities in those spaces, because some of that has to do with the fire service and some of that is other people's responsibility. So ensuring that we build those relationships and coalitions, and making sure that not only our laws or whatever governance are in place, but we're following them, and that we're training and educating our community on other things to help to keep them safe. That's the first approach in that. And then we'll evaluate how we're building future buildings to ensure that things that's coming on board in the future, we can have the built environment that is no longer an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Members of the media, any other questions for the fire chief at this time? No more questions for the fire chief? Well, Chief Smedley, thank you for joining us this afternoon. You can remain on this call, or you can depart if you have to go. Mr. County Executive, I'm sure you have something to say to him.
I'd say thank you, and I think I appreciate you've taken on very quickly, understanding what it is we're doing, and I think you've conveyed very well to the press, your sense of where we're going and what we're working on. So I appreciate that. Where we are now, God, it seems like school just closed. Now we're going to talk to you about back to school vaccinations. Parents can beat the rush to the doctor's office and schedule their child's vaccination appointments now in preparation for the upcoming school year. Free vaccinations are available for school-age children, pre-K through high school, at several locations throughout the county from now until the end of September. Maryland law requires students to be vaccinated against a variety of diseases in order to attend school anywhere in Maryland, and they include protection against tetanus, meningitis, chickenpox. Every year before the beginning of the new school year, the Department of Health and Human Services provides free vaccinations for school-age children who are missing their required immunizations. Free vaccinations will be available through the end of September. Schools will not let children into school at some point if they're not vaccinated. Vaccine requirements also apply to children too young for school who are attending state licensed child care facility or early learning program. And booking an appointment with the family physician now or getting vaccinated at one of our clinic locations is a good way to start the school year and not have to figure out where you're going to fit into a vaccination with the school day and everything you're doing once kids go back to school. Appointments are preferred at our clinics, but walk-ins are accepted. And to make an appointment and find out more information about vaccine requirements on the immunization program's website is www.montgomerycountymd.gov/resident/vaccination. Or you can call the program at 240-777-1050. And this will put information, and we'll put information into the chat so you can share it with your audiences. We are doing a community town hall tonight on our Drone as First Responder program. This is in Bethesda at the BCC High School Auditorium. We are expanding our successful drone program. This will be the third one going in place in Bethesda, currently in Silver Spring and Wheaton, soon to come in Germantown. We're getting these out there, and we're inviting people to come to the town hall to get their questions answered. We did a lot of pre-work on this and creating the legislation for the drones. So I think we've answered many people's questions, but it'd be great to see people turn out and look what this program looks like and get a sense of what we can do and what we can't do. But it's a very, I think, good program, and we've already had successes of it in downtown Silver Spring and Wheaton, and we've seen it being able to respond, to improve our emergency response capabilities by getting eyes on the scene faster than an officer can get there. The drones don't have to drive around the block, deal with traffic, wait for lights. They can just hop over a building and get down pretty quickly to where they can get their cameras on the scene. And the ability to follow people is really important in this program. So we're leaning into this technology to help us in responding to crime that has been critical at times when our resources are stretched thin because of our officer shortages. And I think, we've talked about this a lot with the number of officers that we do not have. We are able to put fewer people out than is optimal on patrol. And so this is one way of helping officers identify where problems are and where they need to go quickly, much quicker than if they have to try to figure it out. So we're hopeful that this will continue to be successful. No reason that it won't be. And I'm looking forward to folks in Bethesda getting a chance to ask questions about this tonight. That's event is going to be at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School Auditorium, and it's scheduled to go from 7 till 9 o'clock. So hope to see you all there. This week, we're going to be on Tuesday, July 23rd, we're going to be unveiling a statue to Dominique Dawes. The Olympics begin next week, and just a few days before the opening ceremony, Montgomery County will come together to celebrate one of the best Team USA gymnasts ever. And I hope you're able to join us on Tuesday, July 23rd at the Silver Spring Recreation and Aquatic Center for the unveiling of a sculpture honoring Dominique Dawes. Silver Spring native is the first African-American woman to medal in artistic gymnastics. Dominique won 4 medals across 3 Olympic Games. She also served as the youngest president of the Women's Sports Federation. Dominique was inducted into the Montgomery County Sports Hall of Fame in 2019. During its first class, she's become a successful businesswoman in Montgomery County, helping children and families discover gymnastics at her training center in Clarksburg, with more locations to come. And the recently opened Silver Spring Recreation Aquatic Center is a crown jewel of our community. It is fitting that we honor her excellence in athletics by reminding every visitor at our new facility of Dominique's time in the Olympic spotlight. So look forward to seeing her, look forward to seeing the statue, and join us on July 23rd. Finally, before opening up the questions, we're going to give my health team a few minutes to do the health report. I'll just say briefly, COVID's still out there. Cases are still rising, and the mortality rate from COVID still exceeds the mortality rate from RSV and the flu, and not by a little, by a lot. So this is not just like getting the flu. It's something worth getting vaccinated and protecting yourself from. So if you're one of those people who's getting flu vaccines but hasn't gotten a COVID vaccine, if you're taking the flu vaccine, you absolutely ought to be getting the COVID vaccine. Everybody should be getting this. So I'll stop here and I'll turn it over to the health department.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. And I just want to, again, reemphasize, I know a lot of folks realize that the fall is a good time to go out and get your flu shot and get your COVID shot. Our federal partners who provide advice on what shots should be administered each year have recently confirmed that they are going to recommend an updated COVID shot for everyone 6 years of age and older when that comes out this fall. And they're going to, again, recommend an annual updated flu shot this year. They've got some updates on the RSV vaccine as well, and we'll share that with you as we get closer to those dates. But for people planning to get those shots in the fall, this is the perfect time to get your children who need their back to school shots done now. I know a lot of families wait until they finish with their vacations, and I can tell you the longest wait times are in August and the beginning of September. And there's a lot of stress trying to get those shots. So if you're making an appointment with your pediatrician, we encourage you to call now and try to get it as soon as possible. And if you'd like to come to one of the county clinics where we're giving these, we're providing the back to school shots, again, your wait time is going to be a lot shorter if you come now. I just want to share very quickly. I know I haven't done this in a while, and so hopefully I remember how to do this. Well, I can't share it right now because the host has it disabled. But I can describe to you what we're seeing with COVID. We have I know a lot of people I'm running into are telling me they're seeing lots of people they know who have COVID now, and it is indeed going up. Our data is showing that our outpatient visits to emergency departments has increased a lot over the last week or two. So far, our inpatients has not gone up significantly, but it is starting to creep up now too. So where we've seen rather mild illness over the last month or two related to COVID, we're now seeing more, I think a greater number of people get COVID, which is resulting in an increase in folks going to the emergency department or going to the hospital if they have more vulnerable immune systems. Which leads me to just remind folks that with increased transmission of COVID, if you're going to be in a crowded, congregate area, if you're traveling on planes or in other places like buses, it might be a good idea to wear masks, particularly if you yourself are at greater risk, or if you're going to be visiting people who are at greater risk. So we'd really like to lower those transmission rates and protect our most vulnerable populations. Those are the updates I have right now on respiratory disease, and I'd like to see if Dr. Stoddard has any other updates he'd like to add.
I do not.
All right, thank you, members of the media. Any additional questions for our officials this afternoon? Kelly, again, good afternoon. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much for acknowledging that increase in COVID cases. We know that there are a higher number currently, not just here, but all across the country. I'm wondering what strategies Montgomery County plans to employ to help reduce the spread of the virus within schools. And I want you to clarify about the vaccine. My question is also, should children who have not gotten the COVID vaccine get one before school starts now, or should they wait for the new one that is expected to be released in September?
Well, that's a great question. And there will be an updated vaccine this fall. I don't yet have the date on which it will be released. Again, the guidance from public health is everyone 6 years of age and up should get the vaccination. I know that it can be a personal decision whether to, 6 months and up, it can be a personal decision whether to wait or not for that latest one. But if you have a child who has not gotten the vaccination, COVID is spreading right now, I would recommend getting the vaccination to at least have one now. And their likely guidance before you can get the next one, it's often that you need to wait a certain period of time, which could be a few months before getting a booster shot. And so if you have an individual who's never gotten a COVID shot and they're eligible, I would suggest getting one now. And then they'll get some immunity and they'll be able to get that booster shot a little bit later in the year.
And have you started talking with MCPS about strategies that you plan to put in place to help reduce the spread once kids come back to school?
Well, we know that MCPS has worked with us in the past, and there's been there is some updates now with how they're staffing. They have a new superintendent, and so we look forward to having those conversations again. Their game plan for the previous year has worked pretty well. I know they very much encourage people if they're ill, you should stay home if you're sick. Our health rooms and our nurses and who work in all the schools, again, they're on the front lines and helping to identify children who are well enough to be in school or who may need to go home. But we'll continue to work with them as we come up with a plan for this fall. And again, our goal across our two agencies is to have kids be able to be healthy enough to be in school as much as possible. So, we'll work hand in hand with trying to preserve that objective.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Members of the media, any more questions today? No more questions? I guess we're done. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.